When he disappears without a word, it's tempting to believe he's at peace, that the silence means closure. But what if the silence isn't absence? It's resistance. What if he's not over it? He's just too afraid to say he's not. Most women take a man's silence after a breakup at face value. He's not reaching out, he must be fine. He's not fighting for you, he must not care. But here's the truth. Men are taught to perform strength even when they're breaking inside. He might be silent, yes, but silence doesn't always come from peace. Sometimes it comes from a place far more chaotic. Pride, confusion, fear, regret. You think he's moved on because he's quiet, but sometimes a man goes silent not because he's let go, but because he can't afford to let you see that he hasn't. He's not texting, not calling, maybe even seeing someone else. But silence is rarely neutral. It either comes from resolution or repression. And when it comes from repression, it starts to leak. Not in words, but in actions that don't match the detachment he's trying to sell you. That's the thing about silence. It doesn't always mean nothing. Sometimes, silence is where the truth hides. It's easy to believe he's moved on, because he makes it look that way. He posts the gym selfies, he's out with friends. Maybe there's someone new in the frame. He doesn't reach out, doesn't check in, and you sit there, wondering, how can he be so okay while I'm still feeling all of this? But what you're seeing, that's not peace. That's performance. See, most men aren't raised to process pain. They're raised to outrun it. They're taught that silence is power, and that showing emotion is weakness. So when they hurt, they don't reach for healing. They reach for control. And that control looks like detachment on the surface. He may convince everyone around him he's unbothered, that it didn't touch him, that he's already over it. But underneath that display, there's noise, there's chaos, there's something unfinished, because real peace doesn't need to be performed. You won't see a man truly at peace needing to show you he's fine. He just is, quietly, fully, authentically. But when a man is still attached and trying desperately not to be, that's when the illusion begins. And here's how it plays out. He becomes loud where he used to be present. He becomes busy when he used to be emotionally available. He surrounds himself with distractions, people, places, noise, because silence is too honest. You might notice him jump into a new relationship quickly. That's not always love. That's often a shield, a buffer between him and the pain he hasn't unpacked. A way to feel wanted when what he really feels is lost. You see, men grieve differently. They don't always break down in the open. They break down in the delay. While you're processing, he's performing. While you're sitting with your grief, he's trying to outrun his. And this is where the illusion becomes dangerous because it confuses you. It makes you doubt your own intuition. If he's hurting, why doesn't he show it? If he still feels something, why does he look so unaffected? Because showing it costs him control. He doesn't want to look weak. He doesn't want to risk being rejected again. So he creates distance wrapped in dignity. He performs strength while feeling shaken. And instead of reaching out, he watches. From a distance, quietly, subtly, still emotionally tethered, but too afraid to admit it. And that's the heartbreaking part. He could say he's not over you. He could speak truth. But his pride won't let him. His silence becomes a mask he wears to protect his image, not just in your eyes, but in his own. Because if he admits he still cares, then he has to face the truth. He let go of something that still holds weight in his chest. And that's a kind of pain most men aren't prepared to process. So instead, he stays silent. He disappears into the illusion. He fakes detachment, not because he feels nothing, but because he doesn't know how to feel everything. And here's what matters for you. You're not imagining the pull. You're not wrong for feeling that something is unresolved. Because it is. You're feeling the echo of a man who's still emotionally attached, but too emotionally unskilled to say it. His silence doesn't mean closure. His silence is the stage where his pride performs and his heart hides. So no, you're not crazy for sensing something deeper behind his distance. You're just picking up what he's too scared to say out loud. That's not your burden to carry, but it is your confirmation. He may fake moving on, but silence will always expose the truth. Silence. It looks so simple. No words, no texts, no calls, but it says more than any message ever could. And the hardest part? You're the one left listening to that silence, wondering what it means. Is he over it, or just avoiding it? Is it peace, or punishment. Here's the truth most people won't say out loud. A man's silence after a breakup is rarely neutral. It's either coming from emotional resolution or emotional resistance. And when it's resistance, that silence is heavy, charged, full of friction. Because silence doesn't always mean stillness. Sometimes silence is a war zone, quiet on the outside, chaotic on the inside. Let's be clear. When a man is truly at peace with losing you, he doesn't go quiet as a strategy. He doesn't disappear to make you wonder. He doesn't monitor your stories, drop cryptic posts, or hover in the shadows. He lets go, completely. Not just of contact, but of control. His absence is clean, uncomplicated, final. But when he's still emotionally tied to you, that silence is a performance. It's not peace, it's pressure. It's not closure, it's coping. It's him trying to reset the emotional playing field without admitting he still wants to be on it. See, silence becomes a mask when someone is still invested but afraid of vulnerability. It's the armor men wear when ego wins over emotion. Because if he speaks, he risks being seen. And being seen means exposing everything he worked so hard to bury. Regret, longing, the ache of knowing he didn't show up the way he should have. The fear that maybe you're moving on without him, and he no longer has a say. So he goes quiet, but make no mistake, he's still in the room. Just not in front of you. He's in the background, playing cool, hoping you'll feel the tension without him ever having to name it. Hoping that if he stays quiet long enough, maybe you'll reach out first. Maybe you'll break the silence so he doesn't have to confront what he's been running from. But here's where silence does its real work. When no one's watching, when the phone stops buzzing, when your energy fades from his world, that's when the show ends. That's when the silence starts talking back. Because silence becomes a mirror. It forces him to see himself without the reflection of your attention. And suddenly the confidence isn't real. The distractions lose their flavor. The mask gets heavy. He doesn't hear your voice anymore. He hears the echo of everything he never said, every feeling he shoved down, every part of you he took for granted. That echo gets louder with time. He can post, he can laugh, he can date, but when it's quiet, that's when the truth starts screaming. And the truth is this: he may not have said he misses you, but silence doesn't erase emotional attachment. It just delays the moment it demands to be dealt with. So if you're sitting in that silence, wondering what it means, ask yourself, does it feel clean or does it feel calculated? Because you'll know. Real detachment is felt in the way someone disappears and no longer pulls at your energy. But emotional tension, that lingers. You feel it in the timing, in the way he resurfaces just as you start to let go. In the way he never quite says what he wants, but never fully leaves you alone either. That's not peace. That's the weight of unresolved emotions hiding behind pride. And silence, real silence, doesn't hide anything. It reveals. It reveals what's left unsaid, what's still unhealed, and what kind of man he really is when no one's watching. So don't underestimate the power of silence, because when the noise fades, when the illusion collapses, that's when the truth walks in. Now here's the part that matters most. What do you do with his silence? You don't chase it. You don't decode it. You don't fill it with words he hasn't earned. You honor it by letting it speak only to him. Because the more you try to understand his silence, the further you drift from your own clarity. You weren't meant to solve the puzzle of his pride. You weren't put here to translate mixed signals or make sense of emotional cowardice. You were meant to protect your peace. See, most women, especially the ones who feel deeply, tend to think silence is a test, a challenge to prove their worth. If he's quiet, maybe reaching out will show him I care. If I break the silence, maybe he'll finally say what he's feeling. But that's not how emotional integrity works. You don't break yourself open to coax vulnerability out of someone who's too afraid to meet you there. You don't speak just to make him feel safe in his avoidance. Silence isn't your cue to fix what he's not ready to face. It's your mirror too. It shows you whether you're reacting out of need or responding from strength. And here's the truth. The most powerful move you can make after someone walks away, or worse, drifts in silence, is to stay silent too. Not as a game, not as punishment, but as preservation. Because if his silence was meant to control the narrative, your silence ends it. If his silence was supposed to make you wonder, yours makes it clear. You're no longer available for confusion disguised as connection. And yes, it will feel unnatural, especially if you're the one who always tries, especially if you're the one who loves with your whole chest. But there's a different kind of strength and restraint. There's power in not chasing clarity from someone who couldn't even offer you honesty. Let him sit with the quiet he created. Let him hear his own echo bouncing off the walls where your voice used to be. Because here's what silence does for you. It closes the emotional loop. Not because he gave you closure, but because you stopped needing it. Not because he came back with answers, but because you stopped asking the question. That's when something changes. You stop being the woman waiting for him to return and start becoming the woman he no longer has access to. And it's not revenge, it's not ego, it's evolution. See, emotional maturity isn't about who texts first. It's about who no longer feels the need to be heard by someone who wasn't listening in the first place. And when you pull your energy back, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect, that's when you begin to heal. Not perform healing. Actually heal. You stop checking his feed. You stop wondering what he's thinking. Because you realize, if he couldn't be honest about what he felt, he never deserved to hold what you gave him. Your silence becomes your boundary. A quiet declaration that your emotional world is no longer available to those who treat intimacy like a performance. And the most profound thing? When you stop looking for his reaction, you start feeling your own peace. You see what he couldn't. You become who you were always meant to be, whole without the noise. So if he ever does come back, weeks, months later, with that casual, "Hey, how have you been?" message, you won't rush to answer. Because by then, you'll know. His silence wasn't strength, it was fear. And yours was healing. That's the difference between someone who runs from their feelings and someone who faces them, sits with them, and rises anyway. That's the kind of strength he never saw coming. So if you're in the silence right now, don't rush to break it. Don't second-guess your instincts, and don't waste your healing trying to understand his behavior. Because deep down, you already know. If he had truly let go, you wouldn't feel his pull. You wouldn't sense the unfinished edges, the invisible thread still tugging between moments. But his silence, it's not your responsibility. You don't owe it attention. You don't need to chase closure and echoes. Your power lives in the space he never expected you to fill with self-respect. Let him pretend. Let him perform. Let him sit in the image he curated. You move, quietly, fully, forward. Because the real breakup, the one that matters, isn't when he left, it's when you stopped looking back. If this message hit home, subscribe. This channel is for you, the woman who feels deeply, loves honestly, and deserves clarity, not confusion. Drop a comment if you're reclaiming your silence, because sometimes the loudest healing is the kind no one sees but you. And that kind? That's the kind that lasts.